Hello, players whose characters always have daddy issues.
And DMs who just can't resist a good old fucking TPK.
Welcome back to Table Talk.
And my name's Robert. Welcome back. What are we talking about today, Robert? Well,
It's 1 in the morning. It's 1 in the morning.
We're talking about player deaths and how to sunset characters. We've had it happen several times at our table, actually, and everyone has been a very unique experience. I think player deaths is one of the more surreal experiences that happens at a table, depending on how into the character everybody is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it can be really intense. I know Madison has cried a handful of times just because the height of the emotion, just with the threat of losing certain characters.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, man. And I think the reason why I wanted to put an emphasis on both player deaths and sunsetting is that we have had to do both.
Yeah.
We have had one character in particular who has managed to outlive a lot of other characters and then had to be more formally sunsetted, like put out to pasture and just be like,
Jesus Christ.
Here's what she's doing with the rest of her existence while all of her friends are either dead or gone. And then we have had others where it's like, cool, they've been around for 4 sessions and now they're dead.
Yeah.
Do we hold a funeral? Do we mark a grave? Like, death monologue?
This is gonna sound bad. We did none of the above.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Not even close. But I think to start with player deaths in particular, how to handle it as a DM, I've talked in previous episodes. I say this every episode because we truly have covered a colossal amount of content. This is episode 19. Every episode has been close to an hour. Some of them an hour and a half, some of them 2 hours.
Woo. So you got to do something special for the 20th.
Almost up to 20 hours worth of content. So there's a lot of shit that I can say that we've already talked about. But we have mentioned, at least I've mentioned in the past, DMing how and when to fudge numbers.
Yeah.
There is only so many times and so many ways you can avoid a player death.
Yeah.
Believe me, I've done it. In a couple episodes ago, I talked about letting a player off the hook 3 times when number 3 is the time that they are supposed to
permadie.
Hard and fast permadie. When you are knocked down to death saving throws for the 3rd time on 1 long rest, you're dead.
Yeah.
That's it. Same thing if you reach X amount of levels of exhaustion. You die. There's not death saving throws. I think it's 6. Okay. There's no death saving throws. There's no you get to come back from this. No, you hit 6 levels, you're
gone.
You're dead.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Hope somebody's going to revivify or some shit because you're outie, dude.
Yeah. A quick question before we get further.
Yeah.
What do you consider death? This is unrelated to like the topic episode. I don't mean okay, calm the fuck. Not death in real life.
It's just a wild question to ask me right now.
Okay. No, I mean
how
like
philosophical I could take this.
I know we had listen to the fucking Big Brother episode.
Yeah.
We're
not
doing that again. I love that. I was like, I'm so glad we're gonna record some like lighthearted episodes after that, and we're doing an episode about death.
What do you define as death, Robert?
Let me explain the question. Let me explain. So
fucking
when I
death
always
of the universe, I guess I don't know.
let me fucking finish speaking. maybe.
Speak.
So whenever I, as a player, am knocked down past 0 and I'm like on death saving throws, I consider that dying, and I say that I'm dead.
In the process of dying, or
I just say
died?
I just say dead. To me, in that, there's like a moment because it's a fantasy world where you're like dead, but there's things that can happen that you come back to life.
Yeah, like that
but
throws and
I get
spells
corrected
and
at the
shit.
table when I go, I'm dead.
Because
I can't
you're not
do anything.
dead. You're down.
I think it's dead.
Because I think you think of things in a very finality, like this is it. It's either 1 or 10 kind of way. And I think everyone else is still very much thinking in like rules of the game. Shut up. You're not dead. You're just down. But you also think of combat and role-playing in D&D as like, what can I do? What have I designed my character to do? And when I take things away from you as a player, like when you're in a fight and you can't do anything, or when your spells can't solve the situation, or when your checks can't do anything, you have the same attitude as when you've called yourself dead.
Okay. That's not where this needed to go.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that helps answer the question, though. That players and DMs, and it really just varies from person to person, treat death and character death it very differently.
Mm-hmm.
Some people see it, at least in terms of the game, right, like, is just the inability to take actions other than saving your own life. I think I view death in the game as once the character has fully passed away. like beyond death saving throws once they have failed their third or been shot while they're down, which can we acknowledge for a second that we exist in a world, multiple millions of fantasy worlds, where goblins who have been slaughtered by the party would not take 2 seconds to stick a knife in the barbarian that's just raged through his whole family.
Yeah.
Because we're nice in this universe. No, we're not. No,
Robert,
we're not.
I'll say this. Robert certainly is not.
You put a fucking
Robert
rock
goes
through Jimmy's head. I'm not letting you live.
This is the fucked up part.
You got me fucked up if you think I'm not stabbing you just because you're
Robert
down.
Will go after characters that are down and on death saving throws. And
because
I want to say
no
that
sense for me not to.
Okay, I get that, but I want you to acknowledge that is the evilest shit that you can do.
No. It's realistic.
It literally is.
It's not evil.
It literally is.
Not evil.
It is evil.
You know what I've also been told is evil? Legendary actions.
They are.
Legendary resistances.
Fuck you.
Which one's the ultimate evil?
Fuck going after players when they're already fucking down. That shit, there's no world in which...
If the big bad that you were fighting, not the BBG, let's just say that like you're in a really heavy combat encounter and the Kraken is on death saving throws. This motherfucker comes up, y'all are dead. The whole combat encounter, fucked. He's coming back, y'all have no spell slots, no health. In what world are you as a player going to tell me that you're going to leave his health to the fates?
I'm going to tell you what world. I'm going to tell you what world. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to fucking tell you. I'm going to fucking tell you.
You're not.
It's about to get physical in this studio right now, ladies and gentlemen.
You're not, though.
You're not, though. You're not a player. You're the fucking DM. This is when you're supposed to be like, hey, I'm the DM. I stepped away from the mic. Don't look at the fucking monitor.
Thank you.
I know. You're not a player. You are a DM.
But
and you're supposed to give us a modicum of grace. A fucking sliver of it, brother.
Nobody has to. No, you don't. You are owed nothing. You are owed nothing.
I am going to eat the microphone.
But you know that I have given you a modicum of grace because I let one of your stupid fucking players live 3 times past what they should have.
I didn't ask for that.
Actually, you did. Before, in the process of making this world, you said, can we go a little lighter? Can we be a little cooler?
Yeah, because we were
and guess
previously...
What? And guess what?
What?
I
did.
What?
I
did. I do every combat encounter. Every combat encounter, I have full opportunities to pick y'all apart because y'all don't fucking work together. And guess what? No. Don't yell. Don't interrupt. I have the talking stick. Guess what? I let you live.
Bro.
I've let you live in particular many times.
Okay, we're not talking about that. We're talking about now.
Yeah, and in this moment, in the most recent campaign I've played, I've let you live when I shouldn't have. So you can shut the fuck up with that.
Yeah, because you didn't know what my fucking hit points were when you sniped me.
So clearly, when we're talking about death,
that was just a full domestic.
Of players, it doesn't always mean as much to DMs. And so I think as a DM, you have to be aware of just how much that's going to impact the player as much as it is the game. Mechanically, damn, it's gonna suck when the party has one less fucking blood bag to go around and hit people.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? No. It's my turn. It's my turn. You've been real focused on interrupting me on this particular segment. I need you to take a breath. It is another thing as a player to lose one of your friends and to have that friend.
You on a podcast?
And to have that friend no longer be able to play with you. I think as a DM too, something I consider is if I down this person in this moment and this player does die, what the fuck are they going to do for the next hour and a half that we have left of this session? I can have them do some weird metaphysical talk to Jesus thing, which I've done with you several times. I've
talked to so many gods.
Have them fucking play an NPC, but like realistically, unless you have that backup played, what are they going to do, you know?
There was a video I was watching recently, and it was a DM on TikTok.
I think I know where this is with the whole, like, they can
the basically Schrodinger's cat of, like, if you're, okay, so you've got a session that you have a certain amount of time. We're playing for, this happened to us recently. We had a 4 or 5 hour session planned, which is about the time that we normally play.
We got about 2.
We got about 2 hours in,
deep.
And there was a moment where Robert was like, I think we're going to call it here. And like, because we were all about to vomit. It was a whole thing. It was
check out one of our previous episodes where we talk about highs and lows to the table. That was a fucking low.
But this DM was basically saying, when you know that you like are playing for another 3 hours and your party is trying to break into a house and figure out where this safe is it in the basement, is it in the attic, is it in the middle of the room, and they're spending all this time kind of crafting up with a plan and debating where it could be, and then he's sitting there going like, do y'all not realize that it's just going to be the opposite of wherever you go, because this encounter has to take a certain amount of time, and if you go in the basement, oops, safe is in the attic. If you go in the attic, safe is in the basement. And then there was a whole debate in the comments, basically being like, is this how y'all play? Have you not seen this video? I thought you said you knew what this was.
No, I've seen videos about what to do with players after their death, and a lot of what I've seen is like give them the ability to be ghosts.
This was
where it's like they get to help and do minor actions.
Okay, no, this was just straight up
give
being
people
like
inspiration, hey, have them choose like benefits that the other players at the table get in that combat encounter.
Yeah, no, this was like, no, if we have a certain amount of time left to play.
Oh, I'm yanking y'all's fucking chain the whole way.
Yeah.
No.
And
I don't. I've never done that.
I'm not even.
But here's my flaw. I write encounters too complex for the amount of time that we have.
Yes, the fuck you do.
So when it's like, damn, I gotta Schrodinger's cat my way through this to make sure the session lasts for 5 hours. No, I gotta make sure that my toddlers can make sure that the square block goes in the square fucking hole in a timely manner.
Listen,
that's what it is.
I've seen the players at our table legitimately be given a puzzle that was meant for children and stare at it.
Shit you not. Like a child,
for
like
so
a baby,
long.
bro.
And I wasn't, I'll take my like little, like, I wasn't there. It wasn't me because I was in a different room and I wasn't doing, like, I wasn't part of the puzzle encounter. But goddamn, they took a long rest in the middle of trying to solve a puzzle. They were in the middle of, they were supposed to be searching for my character who had gotten kidnapped and was just gone. And they said, let's just hit a long rest because this puzzle's really hard, guys. And it wasn't like a high stakes puzzle. This was like they're in a room. There's some chairs. You could sit. There's a fireplace. Like, and they were just like, let's hit that long rest. She'll be fine. She's gotten out of worse. That was one of the craziest experiences that I've seen.
Yeah, that one was surreal.
Because I remember sitting there at the table going, really? You're just gonna take a nap?
We're like, what's the color again? What's the name of the flower again? Oh, how is it positioned? Is there anything else in the pot? And I'm like, y'all, DM to player, I've given you every piece of information that the book has given me. Like, you all know just as much as I do, except for the fucking answer. And then I wrote the answer down for you in the way that it was supposed to be spelled out accidentally. I gave you the color. I wrote down the names. You didn't even need to know the names. You just needed to know the letter.
That was a situation where we did not get another puzzle for the rest of that campaign.
Nope. No more puzzles. Took up too much goddamn time. But anyways, back to death. So yeah, as a DM, I think there's a lot to consider when you're about to let a character die. What's the player going to do? Unless you have a fun little creative mechanic, which having them give players advantage on different things and the help action and inspiration. Like, I think there are fun ways that you can have them interact with their teammates even though they are dead. And then, of course, there's, like, how is this death going to affect my universe? You know what fucking sucks, man? When a character dies who's got an awful lot of hooks and plot lines attached to him, and then he just blips out, you know what I'm saying?
It is so unnerving to hear you talking about, like, death from a DM's perspective of being like, man, that mechanically fucks everything up. Because from a player's perspective, it is like, that's my everything.
Yeah, no,
that's
for me,
everything.
I'm thinking very logistically. I'm like, fuck, if I kill fucking Sebastian's the only one in this encounter that's really able to pull his weight. The rest of my players dead. I'm thinking of y'all like a party. Like, y'all have like fucking little heart ticks and like an AC as a group. Like, I'm thinking of y'all mechanically. How do I fucking keep you guys alive while also being, like, fair to the laws of the universe,
You don't kill our friends.
But that's not how the world works, Madison.
Yeah, it is.
Jesus. Anyways, but, I mean, I also think of it at the emotional level, too. Like, how do I really don't want to see so-and-so's character get killed off in this moment. It would be heartbreaking. Yeah. They haven't hit the arc I want them to hit. They haven't been able to experience a lot of the things with their characters. So maybe I give them an advantage. Maybe I come up with some bullshit mechanic where I'm like, you know what? You just did this really cool thing. You deserve advantage.
I'll say, and that's the thing of, like, unsatisfying.
You deserve advantage because I don't want you to die in this moment. And then you know what hurts even more? When you roll 2 nat 1s back to back.
Yeah,
what am I supposed to do with that?
Unsatisfying character death, I think, is like a very real thing. And Okay. Hello?
Continue. Unsatisfying character deaths is a real thing.
And I think it's
we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit with
Jump in a hole.
Yeah, jump in a hole, which is something we talked about in one of the previous episodes with a character that died in a very unsatisfying way.
I mean, you just, he didn't have the keys to the right puzzle and decided that the way to open that puzzle was to point a gun at, like, basically a fucking loop-de-loop and go, well, I hope that solves the problem.
Yeah.
You can guess what happened when the bullet came back.
Loop-de-loop. I'll say, speaking of this kind of ties into a point of, like, my favorite thing from Dimension 20, and, like, what I think got me and a lot of other people, like, really hooked into it was that second episode of Fantasy High at the end of the combat encounter.
Oh, my God. That shit is
so, for those
hilarious.
of you who have not seen, this is a party
Close
of
your
level...
Close your ears.
Yeah, don't listen. Spoiler. That's
Close
what it
your
was.
Ears.
Or if you want an explanation, I'll give it to you now. So
he shoots himself.
Let me give context. This is a group of level 1 adventurers.
That's just insanity.
They're fighting these corn creatures. 2 of the party members straight die. This is the first combat encounter. They are all level 1. This takes place in a fucking high school.
2 freshman high schoolers die in a cafeteria to corn.
Yeah, like dead ass. And so the principal comes in, and this was a moment where, like, Brendan has, like, talked about this after. I'll just talk about what he said after. So then the principal comes in and, like, basically says some bullshit while they're being like, do you have, like, a nurse? Is there, like, someone we can get? And he says something about, like, a life for a life. He pulls out a fucking gun and shoots the guidance counselor who's in the room in the head, and then shoots himself in the head, and they fall dead. And then the 2 party members come back to life, and everyone goes, what the fuck? What the fuck did you just do? Hey, what the fuck just happened? And Brendan has talked about that, like, on podcasts and interviews, basically being like, yeah, they weren't supposed to die in that encounter, but I guess I should have expected them to climb in the corn's butthole and take damage from that, and then, like, spend a long time jumping on tables and, like, losing hit points that way. And so it was a, like, straight, like, random moment decision where he was like, I can't let this be how they go out.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get creative with it. So that was the way he got out of, like,
that is a death. Fucking player death. I tell you what, man, DM to DM. Player death will force creativity in a fucking pinch, man. When you give your players every possible advantage to not die, and you're like, cool, at this point, if I say you're not dead, I just look like a fucking clown.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just making up laws of the universe at this
fucking
point.
Loser.
That's like if I go, cool, so that sword that's actually through your forehead, through your brain, which is required for you to live. Yeah, that doesn't kill you. I like you too much as a person. That doesn't kill you, actually.
Yeah. Even
though I gave you 16 different times to roll a dice to make sure that it didn't kill you, at some point you gotta be like, you know what? I'm so sorry. You die. You die.
Yeah, and like,
that's
what do you
always
do?
the feeling as a DM is like, I'm so sorry.
You should be. Hey, this shit sucks. Do you have something you want to send in to make it better? Criticisms, topics you'd like to see discussed, or an advertisement you'd like to run? Maybe you even want to sponsor an episode.
If so, shoot us a message at mc460@evansville.edu or DM us on Instagram at Crescent Magazine. Or we'll never get better like these fucking guys. You're dead. Your character is no longer playable. You've lost your ability to interact with the story.
Yeah.
The hours and days that you've put into creating this character and the background and the spells and the weapons and the interactions and the PCs and the NPCs and the plot lines and the hooks, all of those just fizzle.
This is basically something
because you got pinned to a wall and couldn't make the strength check.
Fuck that so much. The fact that that's taken out so many of our...
And that's when you got to learn how to do a death monologue really quick. That's what death means to me, Madison. Death means death monologue. That's when you have to go. That's when you stand up out of your chair and you, like, fist in the hand, and you're like,
I know your
what are you
body
thinking
language
in this moment
so well, and I know the
thinking
way that he goes about.
moment?
He goes every time. I wish there was a fucking camera so because he goes, there's like a clap of the hands. He stands up. He like looks at the ground for a little bit, and he goes, and then he goes. So in this moment, what happens?
I've taken that from a lot of other DM videos that I've watched, though, because they all started with so what happens is so in this moment. So like you're going at it, you're throwing fucking hooks, and you're taking out
version
people.
of what had happened was.
And then and then all of a sudden, in this really tragic accident, you're dead.
Yeah, it's never a good feeling at the table.
No.
I think it is also one of those things I think there's a massive difference between dying in a one shot and dying in a campaign.
Yeah, dying in a one shot, it's like, oh, cool.
Yeah, dying in a one shot.
This doesn't feel as bad as it should, and that's actually really nice.
We played a pirate one shot, and my character, I was playing which granted, I was also playing like a reborn character, so I had advantage on death saving throws. I killed her so many times.
Yeah.
Like it was a bit at that point. It was like I had gone for like half the campaign and like had not long rested or half the session. It was like a 2-day one shot. And I had like 1 hit point the whole time, and I kept trying to get out of a situation and like distract someone.
Kept trying to kill herself.
I just kept killing myself, and it worked. You know, like people kept bringing her back to life, but it was like really fucked up. And like that was one of the moments where it was like very funny because I was coming straight off playing a character where every single thing and every action I took as a player was motivated by keeping her alive.
Yeah.
And like
that was her number one fucking drive. Yeah, man. Was just living.
Yeah, and I think it's something where, like, as a player,
the haters are hating. How am I?
Yeah, how do I live in these conditions when the haters are they just hate so much? And like I think that's something from the player's perspective of you view death so differently because like you're not the DM. You don't have.
I mean, for me, it's like plots and hooks disappear. Yeah. And damn, that sucks mechanically.
And it is my whole life.
Yeah, and then for players, it's like cool. The potentially like weeks and months of my time I've spent role playing and backstory and time out of game, leveling up and picking things, it's just gone.
Yeah. There's this fucking TikTok I sent you, and I don't know if you saw it, but it basically sums up the entire thing.
I got a back orgy.
I know. But it was a video, and it was like a compilation of like the first time somebody played a character into them like being really emotional about their death, and it was like a little collage, and it just kind of looked like a sad edit. And then at the end, the guy sits up in bed and goes like in a cold sweat, and he's like, "Oh wait, I'm the DM. I did that," and then laughs and goes back to bed. And that's why I sent it to you, motherfucker. Watch my TikToks.
Yeah, 100% did.
And like that truly, I think is like describing the difference between the two of like for a player, you are. Like that character is your everything because like once you're down, and I think that's like what you were saying of like when you can't when you can't do actions, that's when you're dead because literally there's nothing else that you can do, and you feel
you can no longer interact with the world. That is how I characterize death in D&D 100%. To answer that first question, I think pro tip also as a DM, and if you're struggling with finding ways to make someone's death mean something beyond just mechanically, which I think was a good point you brought up. Like, damn, it's just mechanics. Like, kind of in the moment, yes, but also in that moment, I'm also thinking like, fuck, how do I make their death mean something? Because not everybody is gonna have a meaningful death, and that's just kind of the shitty reality of playing a fantasy game. You know, like, not every moment is gonna be momentous. A couple of high schoolers dying to corn, didn't really mean a lot. Yeah. Truly, like there was
corn.
Wasn't a whole lot of meaning in that.
It's corn.
You know, it's not like their deaths then suddenly triggered a massive explosion in the school, or so-and-so's death like released a death god that was hosting their body. Like, not everyone's gonna have a super meaningful
like that
fucking
is a
14-year-old
who just died.
Yep. And like, damn, that sucks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think, and this is gonna sound kind of fucked up. Plan
fucked up than anything else.
Plan for your players' deaths in a way that when they die, if they die, you don't have to just like half-ass monologue. Damn, that sucks, G. Everyone sees it, and wow, that's fucked up. Jimmy, you're next on initiative. What are you gonna do? You know, like. Try and have some ideas in your head about like what plots and what hooks are gonna fizzle and which ones are really gonna come into play.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't want to give anybody ideas that I'm thinking about doing this, but like if Sebastian died tomorrow, like in our next session, say you all get in a really heavy in combat encounter against DRT, trying to help Chip or Volt or fucking anybody that's just wanted at this point, and y'all get in a heavy firefight. It's significant because it's a combat encounter, but in this moment, it's just like y'all and DRT taking pot shots, and Sebastian dies for whatever stupid fucking reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a whole lot of meaning in that. But I think my immediate response to that would be, cool, Sebastian's going to become a martyr for the city.
Yeah.
Sebastian is going to be like a symbol for the city to rally around. He was already a family that, like, he already comes from a family that's been affected by DRT in a lot of ways. So his death now means that, like, the city and the world that we're playing in has somebody to rally around, which then sort of makes everybody in the party, the player playing Sebastian and the other players who are playing the PCs, feel a significantly, like, a lot more of a connection to his death versus just guy died, and that sucked. I think, too, he's got a lot of really important characters that are kind of keeping tabs on him. One in particular, who I've already expressed in multiple sessions previous, is really, really passionate about keeping his family safe. Mm-hmm. Not a great person, but is really on the up and up when it comes to, like, protecting his family.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's very aware at the table, if Sebastian died tomorrow to DRT, really important guy is going to wage war.
Roll up.
Like, is 100%, like, that's going to be the next arc that the city gets to go through, is guy on a rampage with a lot of powers, pissed off, and is going for DRT.
Yeah.
And not everybody is going to have those plot hooks naturally set up in advance, but I think even just pulling them out of your ass in the moment, it's going to be a lot cooler for them looking in retrospect instead of being like, damn, I died.
It gives them something to hold on to. And I think that's, from a player's perspective, I think that's one of the most important things you can do when a player dies. Because it is something that is so dear and so near
Make
to
it
these
meaningful.
People. Making it have any sort of meaning, I think, is truly the best thing you can do. And I think that's also something that, like, you as a player deal with, like, when another player dies. How do you handle that? And like, how do you as a character, because we've played in a campaign where we had 2 characters die, and I'm not proud of this, but I shit you not, I don't think we ever spoke their names again. Straight up.
No, well, because no one ever knew they died.
Yeah, we never got.
It was like, damn, they never came back.
Yeah, and
That's
it was
crazy. Part of it was in the universe we were playing. That kind of happened a lot, but
so we had literally no way of knowing if they were dead or alive, which is also kind of a sad thing, because it's like there's no way for us to find out without, like, doing some, like, way off course fuck shit.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense for the story or for the characters or for the players.
And it was a world where it was like people come and go, and not even in a way of like dying and like all that shit, but of like literally people go through doors and they don't come back because you never know where the doors are going to go.
Yeah, setting the stakes for your world is also really important. Just kind of in the same conversation as death. Like, is this one of those worlds where anybody could die at any moment, and that's really what's pushing the characters to, like, preserve their life? You're playing in a very raw and intense universe that has very strict rules and laws set in place? Or are you playing in, like, this is the first time we've ever played at a table together, and, like, realistically, I'm not throwing anything hard at you guys. We've acknowledged that, like, the behavior and, like, the vibe of the session in the world is very, like, laissez-faire. In that case, death probably isn't going to mean a whole lot because you're not really going to brush up against it. But if you're setting your players in a world where death is, like, around every corner, and it is serious, and it is definitive, one of the easiest ways to kick that into gear is go, hey, players, can you all make backups?
Yeah.
Even if you never plan on having them use them, having to make a backup character, truly, like, I've had to do it a couple times, is, like, scary. Because it's like, cool, that means that whatever we're going into next time, like, I might need to be able to, like, switch on a dime.
And I'm going to say this is a moment where I'm going to give an example of, like, what not to do. Because, like I said, I have made plenty of mistakes as a player. I think I'm a much better player now than I was when I started out for a litany of reasons. But, like personal growth, and then also just, like, I've learned from things that I've done, and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do that. I refused to make a backup character for this one particular campaign we played. Because I was just so goddamn attached to this character, and I was just like, no, I'll kill the rest of the party before I let her die. And I just straight up, I didn't have one. And it was kind of a thing where I was like, part of me was like, I don't want to make a backup character because I want to continue to play my character as if it's real and scary in the moment, and I don't have a second chance at life, which I think there is some validity to. But I think on the whole, like, have some backup characters.
Don't be one of those people where it's like, cool, I'm just never gonna, like, I'm not gonna do it because that's not fun for anybody else involved. You know what I'm saying?
And I didn't have any backup characters, like, written down, but I had ideas.
I would be lying if I said that, like, part of me was very hesitant to even really make death a certain thing for that character, because I was aware that the player, in this case you, was so beyond attached to this PC that, like, if I killed him, I don't want to deal with that. You know?
Yeah, just the real world consequences of.
Yeah, and it's like it's one of those things where part of the fear too is like, are you gonna be as invested in the next one as you were this one?
Yeah, and that was also a real fear I had, because I'm someone who gets extremely invested in my characters, and I mean like full like ADHD hyperfixation for the entire length of the campaign. I'm thinking about them all the time. I am doodling about them in my notebook 24/7. The idea of death is terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry.
You're playing on your phone.
I thought she was going somewhere with that. It was nothing to do with play with.
Well,
the idea of death is terrifying.
I'll be honest. It was kind of like a pop quiz.
Right.
Because I saw you were on your.
I heard what you said. I just thought you were fucking going somewhere with it. Jesus.
No, it's just like, yeah, when you're playing as a player, and I think that's one of the things of like, as someone who's like in real life terrified of dying, and also like gets heavily invested in my characters.
I was gonna say some real fucked up shit. I'm gonna just not. No, sorry. For those listening, I'm aware of just how intense Madison's fear of death is, and like my immediate thought, which I'm not gonna say, was something fucked up, and so I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. That's also something to keep in mind when you're playing with people. Don't push boundaries and lines that you know they're not comfortable with.
Yeah. And we want to do an episode talking about like consent forms and like check sheets,
table
and
etiquette,
stuff, which is something that like
inclusive table topping, one might say.
But like the idea of like also knowing the personal lives of your character, of your players, I think is important, because like
do they have the time to make a new character?
Yeah.
Are they gonna have the emotional availability to switch to a new character?
Do they have an entire dice box built for this character, and all of their dice are
see what I would say
character?
Though, and I would say this to players: let me build a world in which your character is allowed to die.
Yeah.
I am not planning on killing you. In most cases, I'm not. In this particular campaign, I keep having to reiterate that. I'm like, y'all can be a little more risky, because I don't have it out for you all. There's not death around every corner. That's not the campaign we're playing in. Last one, anybody could die. Shit was up for grabs. We were playing in a universe where people could walk through doors, and that was the new PC. Yeah. We're not playing in that one now, so I'm like, y'all can be a little more out there with it. You don't have to be afraid of me fucking axing you every session. With that being said, please get attached. Please be emotionally invested. Please do this. Please do that. But do not have it in your mind that this is the only character you will play for this entire campaign ever.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Because then it's a situation where, like, yes, sometimes it might mean as a DM, yeah, like, it's just how I like to DM. I like to be very serious. I like to be very by the book. Rules are the rules. Damage is the damage. Dice is the dice. But also, I'm nice, but I'm nice to a fault where if you're that attached to a character, no, I'm not going to fucking kill you.
Yeah.
Why would I kill you?
Yeah.
You care too damn much. It's too damn early. No, just like walk away and call it. But like if it's to a point where I just absolutely cannot touch your character, now I want to do it more.
Okay.
Now I want to do it more.
The glares.
Now I want to do it more. And maybe there's a reason why your character has to go through death saving throws almost every session, because I'm ready for them to get the fuck out.
I'm aware.
Because it's like a plot or a line that I can't touch as a DM. And you as a player telling me I'm not allowed to touch you as a PC, nothing is more infuriating.
Correct.
It's the whole, did I write it or do you?
Yeah.
Who's DMing here?
I never said that she couldn't
Who's
die.
DMing here?
I never said that.
You can't tell me that I was decentivized as fuck to not kill that character.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
But for other reasons too.
So the second half of this being sunsetting a character. There are so many campaigns that I've heard about and that I've seen on Instagram and TikTok where it's like, what do I do with my level 20 characters? We are like 4 years deep into this shit. There's nothing they can't do. They're gods. That like they're 1v1ing Tarrasque is like sparring partners. Like it's how do I write them out of this fucking story?
Yeah.
And this is the reason why I want to do player deaths and sunsetting is they're very much the same thing in the way that players often feel them. Telling somebody that their player is no longer or that their PC is no longer playable sometimes is taken in the same way a death is, because if we go off my definition of death earlier, which is the lack of being able to take an action. When you sunset a character, that character is no longer taking actions. They're no longer a part of the party. They're outie. They're just gone. And I think a lot of the same notes follow for death, which is trying to make it meaningful is always going to help, of course. Sometimes too, it's a little weird, and you have to do it because like
we've sunsetted several characters.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a little weird too because it's not always just because that's how you want to end a character story. Sometimes people just have to dip out of a campaign, and you got to find like a really weird kind of like cool. They never come back.
Yeah,
you know. But even when I've had to do that, I've tried to make that absence mean something, whether it's doing a session with them individually on our own time or rolling in one of their PCs that cared a lot about them that's there to assist the party. Or their leaving opens up a door for something else. It's difficult writing an end to characters that were meant to live for a very, 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 very long time.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to talking to your players, like what makes the most sense, what feels the best for them. Being aware of whatever kind of character arc they're in, it probably makes most sense to try and sunset them at the end.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that, like, the same session that they kill the BBEG, you end the campaign. Like, that's not what that has to be.
Yeah.
I think what it can be and what oftentimes feels best is to do a session or 2 sessions after the ending of, like, the big conflict just to kind of resolve where everybody goes. It's like, cool, so now you no longer have a primary motivation to be in the party. How, like, what do you do? What do you choose to do with your time? You all can stay together. You all can leave. You all can never talk to each other again. Do you, like, move into an apartment together? Like, and it's one of those things, too, when your conflict is always ongoing and your players are only a small piece of it. Like, in this campaign, there's superheroes. There is no universe, the real one that we live in or the fake one that I've made, where their job is going to just be over.
Yeah.
That's not how superheroes work. Crime doesn't just stop existing unless the planet goes with it. You know what I'm saying? So thinking of how to sunset fucking superheroes, I'm like, do I break their legs? Do I take away their powers?
What the fuck?
Do I make it a really big conflict that then, like, makes them not want to be heroes anymore?
You could just have them retire.
I understand it's going all dark ways, but, like, how do I retire characters who are in their fucking 20s?
Okay, I think it could be a thing of, like, maybe
am I going to time skip, like, 40 years?
I mean, I think
we live in a universe where medical technology is, like, at a peak. You're not even done at 60.
Okay, I was just going to say, I think there's a moment where you could have, like, okay, maybe you feel like you're going to be best needed in another city and you move into another city and you try and start, like, the heroing there and you try to, like, set up things there. Or maybe you realize that your powers, maybe this hero thing isn't for you. Maybe this is a little bit too scary. Maybe this is a little bit too over your head.
And see, the reason I wanted to bring it up as a topic, though, is I feel like it's really difficult when you're looking at a party and not just an individual.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing to go, clearly based off all your experiences, I'm picking up what you're putting down as a player. This shit is not for you. You go live your normal life, hang up the costume, like Spider-Man shit in the trash, famous comic book panel, your way out of this shit. But when the other 4 characters are like, cool, time to form like a legit group, that feels kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know? So it's finding the most appropriate way to end your final session, which is often what setting a character is. It's that final session when everybody is there meeting together, and then asking them what the fuck they want to do, man.
Yeah. I think that is... I'm not a DM, but I think from a DM's perspective, I think that's something that I would lean more towards when it comes to sunsetting a character, is asking a player what they want and what they envision this character's end to be.
Yeah.
And I think that, like...
I agree. I think that's a moment where, as a DM, you can kind of take your hands off of the wheel.
Yeah, because I think, like, the 3 big characters that... and I say characters that got sunsetted as opposed to, like, something else happened to them. So they are not sunsetted. They are, like... either turned into something or like
dead or some shit like that.
I think one of them was a character named Z who ends up like going back to his homeland and ends up becoming a god. Just like, and not in like the level 20 way, but in like there is a like Greek pantheon. The party killed one of the gods. There was an opening, and he just slides on up there and is like, "Cool, I'll take it." And I thought that was like a very fitting thing for that character.
Yeah, definitely.
I think in terms of Magnolia, I really do enjoy the way that she was sunsetted, because I don't think that she was a character. While I was very attached to her and didn't want her to die, and it was like a big thing, I still don't think that she was a character who was made to live.
She fucking did.
And I think that that's part of what is cool about sunsetting a character like that is like this is a character who was like by no means was supposed to have a life of her own. And then to be able to sunset that character doing something that she wanted to do and just have a basically immortal life is a cool way to sunset there. Those are just two examples.
Looking at like giving your players a good ending versus giving them kind of a shitty one. In most campaigns you'll play, in most campaigns you watch, there will be some kind of a happy ending where at bare minimum the players achieve the goals. I think we had a lot of negative endings in R1 for players or for events. And that's one of my favorite things about it. I know it felt kind of shit from the player's perspective, but like from the DM's perspective, being able to write a story and have people participate in it where like the good ending was not guaranteed was so fun for me.
Yeah.
Just because it made the consequences and the stakes and the actions feel so much more significant because
it felt
like,
very,
victory wasn't guaranteed.
It sounds super safe. It felt very Star Wars, just in the terms of like the way it ended, where it was like, yeah, we won.
But did we really?
But, like, there were a lot of losses, and it really never felt like we were going to win. And, yeah, we got out by the skin of our... Which, granted, Star Wars, they did not get out by the skin of their teeth. But, like, I mean...
Their fucking planets got blown up.
Yeah, it was like there were not... There were significant losses that we are still feeling, and we don't have anywhere to go home to.
Yeah.
But it's over, as opposed to something like Harry Potter, where it's like, cool, we defeated Voldemort, and he turned into butterflies, and now everything's back to normal.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I think really it's just feeling out what your campaign calls for, you know? Is it a story that's been very on the rocks, and it's been a hard-fought victory every step of the way? Maybe a bittersweet ending makes sense, you know?
I think a bittersweet ending is good. I don't think that, and this is, once again, I'm not a DM. I don't think that I personally, if I ever DM'd, would leave a campaign on a bad note. Just because I don't like the idea of like, I think bittersweet is good. I think like taking your losses is very real.
Or like a character having to sacrifice himself and like the final encounter.
But that's still like, that's like the bittersweet, and that's like that versus like, well, you guys lost. I don't know what other way to tell you. You guys lost. The city burns to the ground.
It's funny you bring that up. So I've talked about a couple of different times I really want to do a Last of Us campaign. And I think that's probably the only campaign that I will ever DM for where that is going to be a real potential.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is going to be one of those deals where everyone has one character. There is no backup. It is very intense. It is very serious. And there's, like, a real chance that, like, the story ends where the story ends. Like, we could get 3 sessions deep. We could make it 10 sessions deep. Like, it's as long as you all can survive. Like, that's the theme of the campaign. But, again, that's the theme of the campaign is survival.
Yeah.
As opposed to being a fucking superhero. Like, yeah, death is a real thing you flirt with because you're a powered individual. But, like, also... superheroes always save the day. So it's kind of like, you know.
There's a certain level of security there.
Yeah.
At least when you're playing like level 5 characters.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and everyone's spent a lot of time like coming up with stuff. Just kind of one of those things where like you got to feel what's best, what suits your players, what suits your campaign. And yeah, like sometimes sunsetting and deaths are very similar in the sense that like one of the sunsets that we've had happen in particular was bittersweet in that it wasn't really a victory. It was just like, cool, we survived another day. A character named Ifan basically like fulfilled his purpose in the campaign. I sent all of the other players out of the room, did a one-on-one with him. I still haven't told people what happened with that because I think that's kind of fun.
I was really hoping you were going to say no.
I had that player also like swear to secrecy that he would never tell the other players what happened either until I told him that it was cool. But he had a very bittersweet ending and that everyone in the party forgot who he was. And then I like monologued them through their memory, filling the holes in the blanks with other people or different characters and different actions. And they lived. That was the end of the first sort of session episode of the campaign. But it was bittersweet. Like, nothing was really gained from that. It was just like, we lived. We survived.
Sometimes that's all it can be. And I think it's also
It doesn't always
fun.
have to be something super special, you know?
And I like to leave them, I like them to be left on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Not in a way where you, like, ever have to actually revisit them, but, like, just there's a it gives
There's,
the
like,
possibility
potential for
of the
something else
world.
to happen.
Yeah, of like if something were to happen, you could do like a one shot in that universe or something,
That's
or
the way
even
that I
being
always like to set them up.
it
Is like
lets the world
one-shots.
feel like it's still living.
Mm-hmm.
Like even though you've stepped away from it, that's still a world that is turning
There
and
are
that
other
has
things
conflict
could
and
happen.
things that are going
100%.
on.
Like in this one, I've totally thought about giving you guys a one-shot where you all play the millennial group.
That'd be fun.
Like in their up and coming days, like on their first like couple of big jobs,
That'd be
everybody
really
being
fun.
one of those characters, I think would be so fucking fun.
Yeah.
But like things like that, setting up groups of characters, like leave it off on a cliff note, man. So that way you have a universe that you can come back and revisit, and it doesn't have to be this big final thing.
Yeah.
Like this is. Thanks for listening to another episode of Table
You
Talk.
ended this so interesting.
By the time that you hear this, it will be past the New Year, so I hope everybody had a good New Year. Everyone had a good Christmas, if you celebrate that, or whatever the fuck else you
Happy
celebrate.
holidays.
Happy holidays, that's what you say. Thanks for listening to another episode of Table Talk. We will talk to you all later.
Bye.